I don't think the power of a Supreme Court justice is comparable to the power of the Director of Public Prosecution. I think the power and authority and reach of a Director of Public Prosecution means, number one, under the Constitution, you are the only one who can withdraw charges against anybody.
The Honourable Justice Mike Chibita, a Justice of the Supreme Court of Uganda. In our conversation, he reflects on his journey from studying law through serving as a public prosecutor to taking up one of the highest judicial roles in Uganda. We explore together how legal systems can safeguard fundamental rights while also addressing the need for accountability and self-regulation within faith communities. Honourable Justice Mike Chibita from Uganda. Thank you so much, Mike, for being willing to meet with me and for allowing me to call you Mike. I'm
no problem.
Grateful.
Thank you, Gordon.
No, it's a pleasure to have a conversation with you.
Yeah.
Let's start by telling me a little bit about your full-time job.
Okay. Thank you. I'm Justice of the Supreme Court of Uganda. That's my full-time job, and it's a job I have been in since early 2020. 1 month into the job, COVID hit and systems were shut down in Uganda, the court systems and all. But before I got to the current job, I was Director of Public Prosecutions in Uganda for 6 years. That's from 2013 to 2020.
So unpack those. Both of those sound like quite big jobs.
Yes,
Let's unpack those a bit and then come back to the
back
pandemic
to the
and the chaos of the pandemic.
Sure.
So Director of Public Prosecutions means you are responsible for all the prosecutors, all the public prosecutors in the country. Explain a little bit more about what that means to a layperson who knows nothing.
Okay. So basically there are two major branches of the law. There's the civil and the criminal.
Yeah.
So the criminal is where we deal with people who break the law.
Right.
Yeah, commit offenses, and the most common is murder, robbery, assault, rape, those kinds.
Right.
So under the Commonwealth system, most countries have a Director of Public Prosecutions who is the chief prosecutor in the country. And he is in charge of all the public prosecutors. But in Uganda, the Director of Public Prosecution is also in charge of the private prosecutors because he appoints the private prosecutors as well. He has to give them a license. So, charge of all prosecutions in the country. Yeah.
That's a huge job.
It is a huge responsibility, and I remember when I got it and then I got to know what it was about, I said, if I had known half of what I know now, I would not have allowed to do this job. Yeah, it's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
It's a lot of power.
Yeah.
But what a great privilege also to be able to stand between the public and the lawbreakers and work on behalf of the victims of crime. Rarely mentioned, because as a prosecutor, you could just look at victims of crime as witnesses. You just want evidence from them, and then you could forget about them. But they need special attention and care, and this is one of the lessons I learned, the Director of Public Prosecutions, that these people are not just your witnesses. They have deep emotional wounds and trauma, and they need a lot of care and attention. And the system many times does not have time or the patience or even the acknowledgement that they have undergone a lot of trauma and loss and suffering and pain, and they need to be taken care of.
It's obvious that you really care for people, and you saw the people, the victims as people, not as people. Were you, and that impacted your thinking about how you did the job? And can you explain a little bit more about what difference it made to how you did the job, this scary job that you...
So, if I'll back down a bit, just to give you my context. Before I became director, I had been appointed High Court judge for 3 years. And before that, I had been in Attorney General's chambers handling civil matters, contracts, torts.
Okay.
So my experience with criminal law was very minimal. Okay. So by the time I got to be appointed Director of Public Prosecution, my specialty was civil.
Right.
So I had a steep learning curve, but it also was a great opportunity because then I could start from a clean slate and learn. And the thing about victims and people, you cannot believe it, but I learned it in Australia, Adelaide. So just after I had been appointed, I had a trip set up to Adelaide. And this trip to Adelaide was brought about by my association with Advocates International.
Yes.
So
Christian Association.
Christian Association of Lawyers.
Yeah.
So there is one of our members of Advocates International called Mark Mudry, who is based in Adelaide. And he invited me to Adelaide to address a meeting there. And he had not told me, but when I got there, it was a group of Congolese refugees.
Wow.
Yes. I didn't know I would meet Africans, Congolese, black people in Adelaide, but I was pleasantly and kept this away from. He's a very good friend. But he also set up a meeting for me with the DPP. One of those. And he's the one in his office that I learned about victims' rights and paying attention to the people. There's a crime and the perpetrators and the victim, but all these are people with peculiar needs.
Yeah.
So that is where I learned. And I said, when I go, I want to, first of all, set up a victims' rights desk in the office of the director, which was not there.
Okay.
And then I would take interest in interviewing and talking to, and I also advised all my prosecutors that you have to talk to the victims. Talk to them, not just for evidence, but what did this crime do to you
Listen
and the family? What do you think we can do for you? And that was something that I learned, and I think it made a lot of difference. And now it is incorporated in the office of the director, victims' rights, and talking to those girls who have been defiled, rape victims, people who have lost parents or siblings to crime. Give them some attention.
Listening.
So that is how, through coming into the criminal justice world, without it having been my real background of work, I was able to now bring in new things which had not been tried before, and we were able now to chart some new ground, and I hope make it better for the people who had been affected by crime, but even those who had perpetrated. One of the questions I was asked is, during my time as director, is why do people commit crimes? And I was like, oh, that is criminology. My job as director is not to find out why you committed a crime. Okay. My job is you committed a crime. This is what you are going to be charged with. But of course, in interest, I would always want to know what drove this person. So you read the file, and some of the people I would call and talk to just to understand. And then you also found out that some people are driven into crime by various circumstances. Of course, one of the things that, especially in developing countries, we don't realize is there are a lot of mental health issues. A number of people who commit crimes have mental health issues. But again,
they're not recognized in Africa.
They are not, because again, we don't have the time, we don't have the resources, we have not developed the jurisprudence that far, and we don't have the resources. One of the things I found about victims is you needed a social worker, you needed so many other, almost another establishment to deal with that. And as director, I'm given a budget, and it is for prosecuting crime.
Right.
So you almost have to go out. But that is when I also learned that you could bring in partners from other organizations who were willing to help. So one of the other things I learned in this job is that, you don't have to do it alone. If you are open to building bridges and partnerships, there will be people and say, okay, you want social workers? So we dealt with organizations like Children at Risk Network, a UK-based, Viva International, and they trained our prosecutors in how to handle children's psychology and all. And you know what my prosecutors said? Many of them are parents, but they said they had never learned about how to handle children like they learned from Viva and Grieve Network. And so we established many networks who helped us do our work better, but also make criminal justice a bit more humane.
I'm thinking, so the visit to Adelaide, which is in South Australia.
South Australia.
So that was a really providential timing.
It was a providential timing.
And it triggered all of these thoughts about the victims' rights. And then the partnerships you simply began to build up over the next 6 years.
Yes. And again, through these networks.
Okay.
When I was coming for this religious liberty partnership, one of the young lawyers said, but how do you get to know all these partnerships? And I had to look back and I said, through Advocates International, one network leads to another network.
Yes.
As long as you are open to dealing with people and adding value to them, then they add value to you.
Yeah.
And it is the thing you asked me about, me spending the time here.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about going and presenting a paper. You need to interact with the people in that meeting, and you get to learn much, much more. So that is how the partnership, one partnership leads to another, and then you learn this one can help with this one specializes in this area which you didn't know, but you have to be open to learning. You have to be, and then you have heard this said that the more you think you know, the less you actually realize.
I'm realizing that as I get older.
Yes. So you have to be open to learning. And one of the greatest sources of education is travel and meeting people different from you. So I'm getting tired of travel now, but travel teaches you a lot of things.
So you've benefited from
it. Opens your mind.
Meeting people around.
Oh, yes. So you must be open to learning. Even if you are not open, you learn. Once you travel, you learn.
Okay. Not necessarily, but if you're open to learning.
Yes, if you're open. And I am.
Yeah. So 6 years as Director of Public Prosecutions in Uganda, then on to the Supreme Court.
Yes, which is where I am now.
So what does it mean to be a justice in the Supreme Court? What's this? Is the Supreme Court is presumably
the final court in Uganda? Yes, the final court.
So what kind of cases they come from? The other
mostly they come from the High Court and then Court of Appeal, which is the middle court, and then Supreme Court. So ordinarily there are only two appeals allowed to come to the High Court, to the Supreme Court. Yeah. Because you could also get cases from the Chief Magistrate's Court. Okay. But now that would be a third appeal. Right. I don't know. We entertain appeals from the High Court to the Court of Appeal. That's one appeal. And then from Court of Appeal, Supreme Court, 2. So usually we allow a maximum of 2 appeals under the law. But an appeal could come from the Chief Magistrate's Court to the High Court of Appeal. Right. Now, for it to come to the Supreme Court, you make an application for a special dispensation. And there's only one test, that the matter discloses matters of public interest. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, once you do that, then but those are few.
And this is a very senior role in the judiciary.
It is.
How many Supreme Court justices are?
So we are 11.
11 altogether.
We are 11 altogether. And one of those is the Chief Justice.
That's a senior responsible position.
It is a senior responsible position. It's one I never thought I would. As I was beginning off at law school, I never thought I would get there. I never actually aspired to be a judge, and so I never dreamt of myself being a Supreme Court justice. But through a number of things which I attribute to divine intervention, I found myself there again through a series of very miraculous happenings, but all undergirded by willingness to learn, being open to hard work. And I always tell my young lawyers, students, that hard work is one of the components if you want to make progress. So I'm not talking about miraculous in the sense that you sit back and then the things happen, but invest in hard work, invest in keeping time, invest in being courteous to other people, and invest in some of the soft skills, one of which is communication and how you present yourself, and then being available.
This episode is sponsored by CrossMap. If you're looking for a place that fills your soul and strengthens your faith, then visit crossmap.com, your trusted source for inspiration and life-changing stories from people of faith. Do you have your own story to tell? CrossMap Blogs is a welcoming place to launch your own blog, publish your testimony in Christ, and share stories that glorify God and edify his people. And while you're there, sign up for the CrossMap daily newsletter and get top Christian videos, inspiring devotionals, and stories from other content creators to strengthen your faith, delivered straight to your inbox. Be encouraged, be a part, be blessed. Visit crossmap.com. And you got into that role in early 2020, just as the pandemic closed everything down. Talk us through that a little bit.
Yes. One of the things as Director of Public Prosecutions is you basically cannot take leave, or you take leave at your own risk.
Okay.
Because it is a hands-on, and under the Constitution of Uganda, many of the things you have to sign off personally as director. So if you took leave, you find a lot of work has piled up. So then you learn that, why take leave so that I come and then dig under.
There's more work to do when you
Yeah,
get
more
back.
work to do. The only times I found was taking leave was traveling, and then when I'm at a conference, I would use that as my leave. So when I went to Supreme Court in 2020, and then the pandemic struck, for me, the way I look at it, God said, my child, you worked for 6 years without leave. Let me shut down the world for you. And now you can take your leave. So yeah, I was home, and I realized in Uganda, they shut down, and for the first 2 weeks, you could not move out of your house, just into the compound and so on. So for the first 2 weeks of the pandemic, I actually was in my house and compound, and I started discovering areas of the house and the compound I had not known. I was discovering them. But it was a very restful time with my wife and the children. We were all together. So we made the best out of for those 2 weeks where it was complete shutdown in Uganda. And then, of course, they started opening up slowly by slowly. And then remote working started getting introduced. Of course, at the Supreme Court, we have three major kinds of appeal: criminal appeals, civil appeals, and then constitutional appeals. So that is what we do.
It's a broad range of responsibilities.
It is. And so previously, if a prisoner, a convict, was appealing in a criminal matter, they would have to be brought to the court. But now, under the pandemic, we had to find a way of leaving them in prison and then doing audiovisual. In a way, this has helped, because even up to now, when the pandemic is over and we go to court, they don't have to come to the courtroom. So it has solved a number of matters.
So
Some of those
changes has carried on.
Some of the changes have stayed on, and they have worked out for good, helping cut costs and become more convenient. And therefore, the dispensation of justice becoming more efficient.
But I interrupted, I'm sorry.
One of the things I have learned, or that has come to me in a very powerful and strong way, is the passage of time. Ever since I came to the Supreme Court, it is like you're seeing the passage of time in slow motion. We have a term for the new judge on the Supreme Court. It's called baby judge. So when I came on, I became the baby judge. And of course, given my size and all, people enjoyed calling me baby judge.
Yeah.
But after about 3 years, the next person retired, and they had to bring on somebody. So you see people retiring. People you've been with this year, next year they have retired. We retired 70. Then you see people going, and the thing of baby judge is, so I was the most junior in 2020.
Yeah.
This is 2025.
Yeah.
Out of 11, I'm now the fourth most senior. So you see things moving in slow motion.
Yeah.
But not just that. We have lost 2 justices while I'm serving between 2020 and now. So Justice Apioweri died in 2022, November. Then Justice Stella Rach died in 2023, May. And these are people I was with.
They were sitting judges still.
They died while they were sitting judges. Had a stroke, another one from cancer. So it has helped me realize that, wow, you are seeing time moving in a slow motion. The people you are with, they retire the next day. People you are with, they have passed on. And then you see new people coming in, people coming, baby judge the following year, another baby judge. And that's what been one of the biggest observations and lessons for me, that time actually moves. The hymn that says, time like an ever-rolling stream bears her sons away.
Yes.
And I've seen this happen. And so it has helped me also measure my time, and that I'll not be in this job forever. If God wills, at 70 I will leave. But there is also a possibility that I will not make it 70. So it has helped me to bide my time and prioritize what I do.
I'm wondering, you mentioned earlier about having great power in your responsibility as DPP.
Yes,
and so I wanted to come back to that.
To
So
that,
I'm wondering if this lesson you've learned is one of the ways that you have learn to manage the power? Because again, you have this a lot of power as a justice of the High Court.
I don't think the power of a Supreme Court justice is comparable to the power of the Director of Public Prosecution. I think the power and authority and reach of a Director of Public Prosecution means, number one, under the Constitution, you are the only one who can withdraw charges against anybody. Under the Constitution, you are not answerable to anybody, not even the President, not even the Parliament. The first time I got into this job, and it dawned on me that I was not answerable, I actually got scared. Because all of my life I had been reporting to somebody, and if something is so difficult, I refer it to the boss. Now, they were saying I was the boss, but not only that, I had nobody above me to report to answer to. And it scared me actually so much that I went to the Attorney General and told him, between me and you, can I just be reporting to you privately? Because I cannot, I'm overwhelmed. I requested him, I said, because this is too much, it's too much power, and I cannot trust myself to be able to take the final decision and say. But the other consolation that helped me as I prayed through this and fretted, God told me, I'm here. Yeah. You can report to me, you can be accountable. We'll work together. And that helped settle me a little bit. But so, not only that you can withdraw charges against somebody, you are not answerable to any human being. Number three, you can choose what offense to prefer against who. Yes. And in some offenses like terrorism and corruption and a few others, the matters cannot be taken to court until the Director of Public Prosecution has personally signed on the charge sheet. And as such, I don't know what happens in other cultures, but in African culture, people are always consulting, people are always asking you, can you help my relative? And then we are interrelated, it's a small town, you know everybody. So the number of people who are wanting to come and see you, to either ask for a favor for their relative, or the lawyers are saying, no, you have been misled, to give you information. Basically, the amount of busy you have in the office. And then the other thing is the media, of course, it's very interesting. The media almost operates from your office. And so whatever decision you make, whatever decision you don't make, the media is reporting, and depending on what interest they have in the matter, you are always in the media and you are being demonized. When I became director, the 2010 Kampala bombings had just happened. So I became DPP in 2013. So the cases were ripe for prosecution. And I took them on. And so my security was under threat. So much so that the Assistant Director of Public Prosecution, Joan Kagezi, who was the lead prosecutor, was shot dead the day after we opened these. So, threat of death. I was under so much security because they knew where the terrorists were not happy and the way they operate. If they can eliminate, they think if they eliminate the DPP, maybe the case will go away, or people will be intimidated and all. So this was another area where, so I was heavily guarded.
I'm sitting here, Mike, thinking you're facing threats to life, you're facing criticism in the media, you've got this awesome responsibility of power in contexts where power is often abused. What's your secret? How did you cope at that point?
So actually, through this office and the pressure, I actually understood why many CEOs and leaders take to drinking.
Right.
Because nobody can fully understand the amount of pressure, tension you are going through. And also some of the things, like my wife, there are some things I could not tell her because you don't want to transfer all your burdens, and then some things are confidential at a particular time. So then you end up realizing you are keeping all this burden and pressure. Thank God I have a personal relationship with God, and I had then. So I would lock the office and go and cry to the Lord in prayer, and also came to terms with my mortality. Because at this point, the most probable point at which I could be assassinated was between home and office. So I would leave office and say prayer and say, if I don't get office alive, Lord, you are in charge. If I leave home and not get home, if I leave office and not get home, and this was a daily prayer. So it also drew me closer to God and also helped me realize that, okay, I have security, they can do a lot and they are doing a lot. Maybe one day the assassin will be lucky and I'll go. So you learn how to come to terms with your mortality and know. But then you realize that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is while you have life, what are you doing with it?
Okay.
Yeah. And one vivid example, I got a letter from the Director of Criminal Investigations, which said we have unearthed a plot to have you assassinated, and we have arrested some of the people, but some are at large. So we are going to up your security, but a lot of it depends on you. So we just wanted you to know. So when I got this letter, I said, Lord, now I have not done anything wrong. I'm just doing my job. Why would anybody want to kill me? I remembered a passage in the scripture where I think it was King Jose or Hezekiah also came under threat of death. He got a letter which they had written to him and put it before the Lord. Got this letter, locked my door, and told the Lord, my life is in your hands. If it is time, I'm ready to go, and give me the strength. But this will not stop me from doing my work because I haven't done anything wrong. To the contrary, I'm doing what I believe is right. So you had those moments,
and you experienced the closeness and goodness of God and
the
His
Lord,
protection
yes,
eventually
and
through
that brought peace and comfort and strength.
I know you can't speak for your wife, but how did your wife and kids cope at this point? They obviously didn't know how much pressure you were under.
Yes. They saw the security, they knew the threats in the newspapers and all. But my wife is even more prayerful than I. The good thing is, before I took this job, she had said she was not at peace with it. So for about 6 months, I could not say yes to this job. But one day she came and said, I've prayed, I'm at peace, you can take the job. So in a way, we were in this together, dialogue, and we had brought up our children in the fear of the Lord, praying every night and every morning. So we brought them on board and told them, this is what the job is. They have assassinated one of the prosecutors. There's a likelihood I could be next. I'm not afraid, but you just need to be aware. And you yourselves need to be careful at school, because now there was a suggestion that maybe they need to give security to my wife and the children, but we thought this was just too much. We would not allow the terrorists to run our lives. So we said, just be careful. Where they worked, they had their own security arrangements, separate from our families. So we knew once they were at school, they were secure. Once they were at home, we had guards and all. But through all this, now, that's why I was telling you the power and the threat and the pressure. Now, at the Supreme Court is, this is a bit of a picnic.
I don't believe that for a minute, but I do understand what you're saying. Contrast to that. So speaking of your family, Mike, I know you come from your own family background is very humble. Tell us a little bit about that. You've risen to be Director of Public Prosecutions, a Supreme Court judge.
Yes.
But you began life in a very humble setting.
Yes, I began life in a very humble setting in eastern Uganda. Very remote part of eastern Uganda. I always tell people that in my village, there is no way through to any other place. If you are coming to my village, you must be coming to my village. So it is that remote. My dad was a school teacher, which at one point was a middle-class job, but through intervention of Amin, now being a teacher was you were
in the 70s?
70s. In any case, which also says, you notice my name is Mike, that's my official name. Now my dad, because he was a school teacher and we were 10 children, I was the 5th of 10 children. Now when I did my primary leaving examination, he did not allow me to go to secondary school, high school, though I had scored the first grade. It is later that I understood my sister, who I come after, had gone to high school, and my dad could not afford to pay school fees for both of us. I learned this later, he never explained, but in any case, he told me, no, you need to repeat primary 7, get better marks and all.
Even though you'd been top.
Yes, yeah. And those days, once the parent told you what to do, you did it.
Right.
Yes, and so on. So I repeated. Now, they told us there is a machine called a computer in Kampala, and it doesn't allow people to repeat. So you have to change your name if you're repeating.
Oh.
Even if very slightly, but you need to confuse the computer not to know that you are the same person.
Okay.
At that time, there was a wrestler called Power Mike. He was, I understand he was Nigerian. Yes. And so the name Power Mike was. So I thought, why don't I just abbreviate my name to Mike? And I think my dad let me get away with it because he knew the struggle I was going through in repeating. So I changed my name to Mike.
Okay.
And lo and behold, I sat the PLE and scored very good marks. And I was admitted to King's College Budo, the most prestigious high school in Uganda.
Wow.
And that changed my life.
Wow.
Yeah. That changed my life because moving from the humble thing to King's College Budo, where the students were children of ministers, ambassadors, that high class. Wow. And going to interact with them. And at the time I came, I just wanted to finish O-level because that's what, in my village, that was the highest aspiration, that you have completed O-levels.
Okay, at an age about 16.
That's about it, yes. But to get into Budo, you really, people were thinking about going to high school and then university, and then it begins revolutionizing you. And though there were different classes, you could say it was a very close-knit family, Budo family. It did not matter where. They embraced everybody. The only differences was what was your dormitory, and God had endowed me with abilities in sports. So eventually I integrated very quickly and became part of the whole core of Budo. The rest is history. Went to law school in Makerere. I got my first job as state attorney in Attorney General's chambers, became personal assistant to Attorney General. Eventually was asked to go and become legal assistant to His Excellency the President. Basically, then God just helped me move on. But through that, the lessons I was learning was that I was in these places not because I deserved to be, not because I knew anybody in the high and mighty, but my reliance on God, and God had taught me discipline, time management, work ethic, respect for other people, and being able to always do my homework, be ahead of everybody else. Yeah.
So you were quite driven.
Yes, in a way, I'm a laid-back person actually, in personality, but because of the experiences, the background, and I had to get a bit of drive and motivation. Yeah. And one of the things I told you, which I should not leave without mentioning, is in Budo, I belong to a certain denomination, and what is it called? A branch of the Anglican Church.
Yeah.
But who were very strict and legalistic. And one of the things was we had to wake up at 5 a.m. to pray. And there were several of us in our dormitory. And so from senior 1 up to senior 6, we would wake up at 5 a.m.
This is from
age of 13. Yes, yeah. Wake up and up to now, I just wake up at 5 automatically. And I found this the most productive time. Yeah, that's when I've written a book. I would get up and write. I write my judgments. I do a lot of things between 5 and 7. You do more work than you will do for the rest, at least for me.
Because
the rest
peaceful.
Of the day, very peaceful, very quiet, and the mind, at least my mind, is very productive. So those were big lessons. Budo was a very big chapter in my life. Changed my life around.
Tell us a little about the book. We must draw to a close. Tell us about the book. By the way, I've written a book.
This is how it happened. In Budo, we had a magazine called Budo Telegraph, and people would contribute articles. So when I got to senior 5, I became the editor-in-chief. I loved writing, I loved reading novels and so on.
Yeah.
I loved reading. I read the Bible 4 times from cover to cover during my vacation, secondary school years. And there were those days no social media, there was nothing to distract. So the thing I had was my Bible, and I read it from cover to cover 4 times. Yeah. But so I was into reading and writing. Now at Budo, one time, the articles did not come in from other students. So there would be about 10 students contributing, and then you compile. This particular time, for some reason, There were no articles, and I was determined the issue must come out. So I sat up the whole night and wrote the whole magazine alone. So I was into writing. Then when I left, I became a lawyer. I started writing for the New Vision, articles, legal articles, practice makes perfect. Anyway, 2009, I was very healthy. I had never fallen seriously sick, malaria once in a while here, and it would never put me down. 2009, my wife says, but you seem to have palpitations. Your heart is beating fast. And then I started sweating profusely. I started losing weight. And we did tests. They said typhoid, this and the other. Eventually, it turned out I had something called hyperthyroidism.
Okay.
The thyroid regulates metabolism.
Right.
And if you have hypo, that means your metabolism has slowed down. Then you can get a goiter, you put on weight. Hyper is the opposite. The metabolism is very fast. Right. So you sweat, you palpitate the heart, and you lose weight.
Yeah.
So thankfully, it was caught in time, and I was put on medication. Now, before I was put on medication, for the first time, I thought I was going to die. For the first time in my life.
Okay.
And I told the Lord, but why do you want to kill me now?
Okay.
And it seemed we had this conversation, and the Lord said, what else is there for you to do in the world? I think you've done everything. It might be as well a good time to go. So I had to look for a reason why I should continue living to give God. And I told God, but God, I'm such a writer, but I've not written a book. And it seemed like, said, okay, for that one reason, let me extend your life. So I got better in any case through a series of other things. Now, happens, I forgot about the book. One day I was flying from Amsterdam to Chicago.
Yeah.
The job of DPP, I flew a lot.
Yes, okay.
And of course, the story of the Titanic. Then somehow, in the middle, the Atlantic, I just got a panic attack and thought this is where the Titanic sank. And our plane might be going down.
Yeah.
And I'm going down without fulfilling a promise I had made to the Lord. For some reason, that preoccupied me. So as soon as I landed, I had my laptop. I put it down. I said, thank you, Lord, I've made it. I'm going to immediately execute the promise. And so I came up with an outline of the book. It was shortly thereafter I was appointed a High Court judge. When you're appointed, you don't have work because you must first hear cases before you accumulate enough judgment. I used that time to write a book. Kind of autobiography. It's called
Loved by the Best, and the subtitle is Journey
of One African Judge. So thankfully I brought 2 copies. I've given one to Roshini, who I got to know much earlier. I'll give you a copy so that it might enrich you.
Thank you.
Long story short, I finished that book, and in 2011 we launched it. Now what happened is, because I write a lot and I knew I'd written just a bit, in the book I said another book will be coming out soon. But just to say that my second book is going to be out this year. Yeah.
What's that called?
The title now is called Leaders Grieve Last.
Leaders Grieve Last?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What does that mean?
What that means is, so I told you we were born 11.
Yeah.
We were born 10.
Okay.
We were born 11. One died young, so we grew up 10.
Yeah.
And I was 5th born.
Yes.
As we speak, we have 4 of us left.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And now they are firstborn by default, all the others above me, and then 2 below me, and then I've lost my dad and my mom. My mom, actually, we buried her on Good Friday last year. And then I lost a number of people. As I was beginning to write on my second book, of course, I would every so often bring in, while I was doing this, so and so died. So my editor said, instead of writing the second book as we had agreed, I realized there's little material on grief. Why don't you instead write something on grief? And interestingly, my mom was very alive. She was 88, but very slow. Just when I was about to complete the book, my mom passed away. And I thought, wow, actually this book would not have been complete without me grieving for my mom. So I devote quite a bit of chapter on my mother's sickness and going through. And the title is, when my mom died, because I'm the firstborn, I'm the heir of my dad, I'm a justice of the Supreme Court, so there were all these people coming to the funeral. I had no time or luxury to grieve. I had to arrange the funeral, I had to welcome people and contact the bishop. So that's where it says leaders grieve last. There is grief, but when you are the leader, you have to arrange things. You cannot afford to. So that is my book coming out this year.
Mike, you've worked out how to handle power, manage power. You have this deep heart for people, including victims. Treating people with dignity and respect is one of the things you've spoken of. You've learned lessons about grief, and and bereavement and grieving.
Yes,
I just
about mortality.
Mortality.
Yes. Yeah.
I just feel as if this is a rich conversation with so much depth.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be able to, and sometimes when you talk through with somebody, then you realize how far you have come.
Yes.
How far you've come, and sometimes you live just day after day and all, but when you're given an opportunity to reflect, then you realize, wow, it has gone through. And then for me, as being a person of faith, you realize you could not have done it by your own, on your own volition, by your own strength and all. And to know that there must be a power behind this and for a purpose. In fact, one of the things as I was researching why we are in the world, why are you in the world, what are you doing here? I realized that actually we are in the world to glorify God. You can summarize everything. Our life, our work, our family life and all is to glorify God ultimately. That has been my ultimate lesson.
Thank you, Mike. Honourable Justice Mike Chibita, seeking to glorify God, author of 2 books, father, husband, esteemed lawyer. Thank you so much for being willing to talk to me. I've really appreciated that.
Thank you, Gordon. It's a pleasure to meet, and at certain times I think, I've met so many people. Then I come to a place and I meet completely new people I never met, but then we talk about people. You met John Stott, John Lennox, Bishop Zach, then you realize the path.
All these connections,
Amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Faith Without Frontiers. I hope you've been refreshed, stimulated, encouraged and inspired by the conversation, perhaps even challenged. If you enjoyed today's episode, then please subscribe so that you don't miss the next story of faith in the series. And do consider sharing the podcast with friends, colleagues, or members of your church community. Until next time, may the Lord bless you and strengthen you as you serve Him wherever He has placed you.